Lucinda, how would you define purpose, or what do you know about purpose?
Well, I don't know anything, but I would define it as the reason why we are here. That's what our purpose is.
Okay, all right. Anybody want to add to that? Susie said goal or objective. Do you want to unmute and say anything further about that, Susie?
That was just kind of a broad stroke answer. I mean, we could probably spend a couple of hours talking about the definition of purpose.
You're right. So purpose, if we just look at the etymology of the word, we're going to have a lot of ideas about what it is. So per means the same as P-E-R, P-U-R, P-O-R, means towards. Okay, so propose, purpose, I can't think of all the words now, but propel, all right, so you're moving towards something. And then pose, we know, pose is a stance that we take, right? We pose for a picture. So it is what we pose towards. So it's the stance we take and aim towards a goal. Okay, so when I think of purpose, I think of a person who is, like aiming a bow and arrow, right? And the goal is going to be, the bullseye. Okay, so it's the stance you take towards that bullseye. Okay. So the goal would be and the purpose is really the bullseye, but it's that we take a stance towards that. And then people talk about life path. And so the path, if you know what the bullseye is and you're aimed towards that, your stance is in that direction, your eyes are on the bullseye, right, on the target, then your path is going to become very clear because everything you do would be in that direction, right? And obviously you can wander off, but the straighter that path is, the more purposeful, or the quicker that you would achieve that goal. The purpose is really never achieved. I mean, we set the goal there, and that's the why, but we're always aimed. So it's not like, well, I'm going to finish my purpose and we're done, right? You always have a purpose, and that purpose will continue, like a soul purpose will continue through all your lifetimes. So that thread, that trajectory between you and that goal would, you'll find a thread through many lifetimes and even the time between lives. So why do we want to know our purpose? Who wants to answer? Why? Well, let's get a bunch of answers. Why would you want to know your purpose? Don't everybody speak at once. Maria.
Yes, so that you are learning your lessons and having the impact you're intended to have.
Okay, all right, learning lessons, having an impact. Who else? Tyson, why would you want to know your purpose?
Help you on your soul's path, could make your life more happy, more pleasant, or kind of help you achieve your goals, or kind of feel like an essential accomplishment as you're moving through your life if you know how to mark yourself of how you're going, I guess.
Make it a more rich and satisfying experience. Okay. Debbie, do you have any input on why would you want to know your purpose? Oh, we have two Debbies here.
Oh.
Well, Debbie Moninger, you can start first, and then we'll talk.
I'm going from a different point of view here, because I've always thought that a lot of depressed people are depressed because they aren't following their purpose, or they don't know their purpose.
Mhm.
And exactly what the gentleman had said before is it gives you more fulfillment and satisfaction and a reason to get up in the morning.
Right, exactly. Okay, Debbie Surley, do you say Surley?
Debbie Searle.
Searle, okay. What would you say?
I think a lot of it is the same of what others have said about your own achievements, your goals, and achieving those goals and getting that purpose. But then it also as well, your purpose of wanting to help other people achieve theirs as well. I think that's really fulfilling. It's not always about yourself and your own purpose. If you're working towards your own and then helping others,
Okay,
like that. Yeah.
all right. And Rajiv, do you want me to read that or do you want to speak? Of course, I can't hear you say that, but I guess you want me to speak. All right. So he says, aligned to your purpose is more efficient and less meandering or wasteful. True. It gives you that straight trajectory if you keep your eye on that target. What about decision making? Like if you know your purpose, would that help to clarify your decisions, for instance, right? And the choices that you make? I think it would help. Well, I was thinking it would help with understanding your values, but on the other hand, understanding your values helps you to understand what your purpose is too. So that's kind of a two-way street there. Okay, so what clues could we have that would help us to understand what our purpose is? What clues could we look for? And I'm just looking for a note here. Yeah, what clues have you come up with that kind of indicate your purpose? You have to wave your hand, I think, because okay, Susie.
Certainly isn't something I came up with. You just alluded to it, is knowing your values correlates with your purpose. And a lot of people don't have an understanding of what values are or how to ascertain what theirs are. And I have found that once there's clarity around values, there's clarity around so many other things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I do a values, or I give a values exercise to my the clients that I work with in my programs. And it's huge. You know, it really clarifies a lot of things, and it changes the way that we interact with people, with our activities, with our with the world in general. So it's really valuable to know your values. Who else? What other clues might we have that would help to indicate what our purpose is? Anybody? Maria?
Yeah, potentially your interests, the things that draw you.
Interests, passions, talents, and hobbies, that sort of thing, feed into it. You know, they're not necessarily what the purpose is, because remember, there's a difference between what our purpose is and how we function, right? A lot of coaches or people who write about purpose are really alluding to function. So an example of that would be if we had a hammer. Okay, so we have a hammer, and what is the purpose of having a hammer?
Hammering a nail.
Okay, that's its purpose, right? It was created and designed to strike a nail, pound a nail into some wood, something like that. How can the hammer function? What other function does the hammer have? Anyone?
They also remove nails from the wood.
Could remove nails. Cinda, what would you use your hammer for? if it wasn't going to be for nailing?
Mm, I don't know, just to exhibit strength, power.
Okay. You could use it as a doorstop, right?
Oh, true.
A paper,
Paperweight.
right? Paperweight, doorstop. You could tenderize meat with it, right? You could pound meat and flatten it out. You could shape metal, like if you had, you know, a piece of metal that you wanted to fold or something, you could hammer it. You could hammer things, right? So it can function in a lot of ways. Can you think of lots of ways that you function, right? And we don't have to share all that because there's going to be a lot of ways that we function. I mean, I can type pretty well. I play the piano, sorta. I can speak 2 languages. You know, I can cook. That, you know, I can't tell jokes. But there's a lot of ways that I can function. I mean, I could carry water to my plants, right? But that's not my purpose.
Mm.
You know, watering my plants is not my purpose. Typing is not my purpose. But we can function a lot of ways. So if we focus on the function, we may miss the real purpose that we have. And so our soul's purpose was created at the time that we were created. Okay, so a long time ago, right? Um, Although, because we know that time is malleable and all space and time is here and now, we know that the beginning of time was, you know, right here, as well as a very long time ago. But at the inception of our own creation, we have certain talents, aptitudes, energy. You know, we all have different levels of energy or different ways that our energy is expressed. Um, we have different levels of intelligence, of interest. I mean, some people really like all the minutia and all the little details, and other people are really built for the big picture, to see the larger scope. We all kind of, you know, we have different ways that we function. We have different strong points and weaknesses, right? I would not be very good at construction, you know, lifting heavy things or whatever. But even as a soul pattern, I'm probably not good at that. Just knowing who I've been in all these lifetimes, you know, but um, so there is that uniqueness about each and every one of us. And so you know, we can't, it isn't a blanket kind of thing. We each have to really, really know who we are and really understand our strengths, our weaknesses, our aptitudes, our passions. One of the ways that I tend to explore purpose is by looking at what we were interested in as a child. What were your games? How did you like to play? What games did you play, or what make-believe did you play? You know, a lot of times little kids play that they're a fireman or a policeman or a soldier or a mommy or, um, you know, all the different things that they play. I used to play being a teacher. Imagine that. um, so what were some of the things that you all liked to play as a child? Debbie Searle, your mic is on. We'll pick on you. Oh,
I don't know. I think I didn't have very good upbringing. So realistically,
I'm
I
sorry, what?
didn't have the best upbringing. So when
Oh,
I look at my past, when I think of my young years, they're more of there's nothing there.
ah,
So I think I I was a little bit more of wanting to be grown up, and I don't know whether that's about not wanting to be small because of that. So just wanting to be big.
Right.
I loved music. I loved music as a young person, and nobody influenced me with music. So that must have been in me.
Right.
I think that was probably more of what I was when I was a child. I always wanted music around me.
Okay. Well, that would be a big clue. Yeah.
I,
That's one of the passions.
yeah.
Was there anything else that you like to do?
It's
Or
funny because I see it as nothing, my past. I see it as my
okay.
childhood. I just see it, I don't know. As soon as I think about it, I think I don't want to think about it. So it's a little bit like I've obviously blocked it a little bit out.
Yeah.
And it's
Okay.
only talking to you that makes me realize that, because I don't really need to talk about it. That's all. So saying that has made me think, right, oh yeah. So definitely, but I was quite I loved playing with my hair and looking at makeup and music. So just those, but I wonder whether the hair and was makeup was because I wanted to be older. It
Yeah.
made me look older. So probably that, but I didn't really have I didn't really have anything when I was little. Sounds a little bit sad, but it's not. It's fine.
Uh-huh.
Um, but
That might be something to journal about, and really think back about. And certainly if there's a lot of fear or things about that, we could talk
mm,
some privately. But
okay.
yeah, to just really access that. How about anybody else? Rajiv, what did you play when you were a kid?
I'm a little bit like Debbie. I think
I'm thinking on the
I
good one.
have uh, blanked out a lot of when I was a kid.
Oh,
I some time back I sat down and wrote as far back as I could remember, and it was a jumbled mess of stuff.
hmm.
And that's what I'm trying to figure out. What the hell is my purpose?
Okay. Well, we'll
Oh,
have other ways to find that, but that's interesting. Again, well, you've been trying to write and go back into that a little bit. Um, okay, so one of the things that happens with traumatic experiences is they get generalized. And so even though they may be specific times, it feels like it was all the time. So
mm,
it might be a good exercise or fruitful to try to look between the gaps, like look between that when maybe when you were alone in your room or when you were off in school or playing at your friend's house. What did you like to play then, in places where it was safer or less messy, um,
okay.
to get to get closer to some of those memories. Maria, what did you play when you were a kid? Please don't tell me you had a messy life and you don't remember.
No, I do remember.
Really striking off well here.
Um, I loved having tea parties
Uh-huh.
and baking and having people being able to spoil them with their tea and cookies and cakes. And so I've always had a sweet tooth.
Uh-huh.
I loved coloring and drawing. I had 64 colors of Crayola. I wanted the biggest box and I used all of them. And I always loved mysteries. I can even remember myself looking for places outside where I could crawl in or look behind it because somehow or other there might be something hidden that I could discover.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah. So I'm not sure what it all means, but I do remember it.
Okay, right. Okay. Well, those would be a few hints. Gina, we haven't heard from you yet today. Are you able to talk? Sometimes Gina is at work, I think.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So this is a fun, interesting exercise because what comes to mind is I remember as a kid being so convinced that I wanted to be an architect when I grew up. And then in high school, I took a college level drawing class and got really like frustrated. And I said, this isn't for me. and then went into business. But the concept of an architect, of building and, you know, just designing is something that called me, but I kind of put it on the shelf. So I wonder if that had any significance that I just am overlooking.
Well, there may be some real clues there, you know, how you could expand that, because there's a lot of facets to architecture, everything from making pleasant spaces to design, like you said, construction, you know, different things there. And you know, going into past lives may also give you some pointers as well, or some
Yeah.
thread of
And
clarity.
as a hobby, like as an adult, once I did do the corporate business thing, I've like really drawn into demoing my own place and learning how to set tile and set floor. So that's what I'm saying, where it's like maybe I didn't choose it as a profession, but there's something that calls me and interests me there.
Right, right. Very cool. Okay, so that's one of the exercises, is taking a look at those childhood games. Like I said, I used to play teacher all the time. I'd gather all my friends and I'd have a chalkboard and I'd teach them math, or I don't even know what all I was teaching them, but somehow that worked out. But what's interesting is then if you look at your life and think, well, what other doors opened, or what other um, things interested you? So, you know, I loved playing the piano and I would do that for hours. But what was interesting is as I went through high school, I was actually offered a teaching scholarship. I could have a full 4-year ride if I would, but the deal was that I would have to teach in the Denver public schools. And at, you know, 18, I just said, oh, and I had to commit to 5 years after college. After the 4 years, I had to commit to another 5 years in the public school system. And I just said, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do in 9 years from now. I can't make that commitment. So I didn't take it up. But later on, I looked back and I thought, well, isn't that interesting? Because I love to play teacher. And I did not apply for this scholarship. One of the teachers approached me and just said, well, you know, you have some specific talents, I don't know, in English or something. And she said, I'm going to submit this scholarship application for you, or whatever. And so she's the one that brought that to my attention. But I just thought, well, that's interesting. So, you know, in your own lives, you can look at, you know, what has shown up for you, that, you know, different opportunities, or, you know, open doors that maybe have led to where you are. Another one for me was in high school. I always was interested in spiritual things, but there was, I mean, no conversation around that. Nobody teaching, hardly any books. This was back in the dark ages. And my teacher, yeah, my teacher opened up the newspaper. It was a homeroom, so it was just kind of study time. And he opened up the newspaper and said, I'm going to read you your horoscopes. And I thought, what is a horoscope? And when he read them, it was like the light went off and I started studying astrology. I was 16 at the time. And it just lit up my world to have that knowledge and wisdom and that kind of connection to ancient mysteries at my fingertips. So I started with tarot and astrology at that point. So just another like incident that where probably everybody else in class just went, okay, all right, well, that was cool. You know, but for me, it was just this one little spark that just ignited a bonfire in my life that, you know, really set me off on my path. So think about those kinds of things that have happened in your life where that interest sparks and is so passionate for you. And then, you know, think about how that fits in. Oftentimes we don't end up pursuing, you know, like Gina said, you know, you might have that passion, but you end up pursuing something else as a career. You get in a different kind of job. And that doesn't matter. I mean, no, your purpose you could continue to fulfill no matter what you're doing. You could be flipping burgers at McDonald's, and if you understand your purpose, you could still be doing it. So if I were flipping burgers at McDonald's because I needed the paycheck, I could still come in my evenings or days off, and I could be pursuing astrology and teaching or doing whatever else I have my passion for. Um, but, you know, I could also be influencing and teaching subtly the people around me, even in those environments, right? So it doesn't have to stop us. It's, of course, it's always fun if you are working in the profession and, you know, in the topic of your passion. That of course is great. Um, they call it Ikigai. Has anybody heard of that term, Ikigai? Yeah, it's kind of a new term for me. Ikigai or something like that. Iki. Anna, do you know how to spell it? Okay, yeah. Ikigai, correct. And it just means that, or it's about your passions. I forget that. Go on to YouTube. There's some YouTube videos. Oh, there you go. Do you want to say anything about that, Anna?
Yeah, it's like a map. So Ikigai is in the center. So that's mean purpose in Japanese. And then around in the sides, it's your passion, your mission, your profession, or your vocation. So you have to combine that knowledge with what you love, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, and what you're good at. So like if you do this map, you're supposed to find your purpose. And it seems that, well, it says that if you find your purpose, you can also get money by doing what you love too. So
Yeah, if you live in that passion, yeah, and figure out how to do that. Is there a website that comes from? Maybe you can put it in the
well, I found that this one in social media, and I also saved that today. That's why I had it in my phone.
Oh,
But
that's
yeah, I can send some information.
okay. Or people could just search for Ikigai and get that little mind map. But thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. Um, that's interesting that you got that today, and it just happened to come up today, just in time. Um, so, but for me, I take purpose a little further. So yes, it is your passion, what you're good at, what you can get paid for, and whatever the fourth one was, whatever people, oh, how you can help others or what people want from you. But another really important part of this is going to be, of course, values would be the next one, right? So making a list of your values. And how I do this for my clients, it's a little more complex, but the short version is make a list of all the people who are important to you. And if you want, you could just start with 10, you know, and maybe get index cards. So each name is on a separate card. So name 10 people that are important to you. Name 10 activities that are important to you, and name 10 items or things that are important to you. And that's just like the basic pack, right? My value, you know, my cards are a huge stack because, you know, over time you start really breaking it down into smaller bits, and you know, there's a lot of value in the world. Like, you know, things, you know, you could say, oh, my computer, my phone, my car, my house, electricity, water, wholesome food, my children, oh, those are people. That's right, they're people. Um, um, sunshine, vitamins, uh, and I'm trying to think of the 10th one. But then you can start saying, well, I really love trees. and I wouldn't want to live in a place that didn't have trees. So I love trees. And so then as you're driving around, you might start appreciating different things about life, or just in your home, your picture books and different things like that. So it starts to really help you with gratitude and really appreciating, for instance, I don't like driving in traffic. I don't really know anybody who does, but when I have my values kind of up front and in my mind, when I'm driving in traffic, I ask, it's like, oh, I wish they'd just get out of my way, right? But then I kind of go back to my values and I think, thank goodness that there are other people in the world and that they're out, we've got the freedom to be out, socializing, or, we have the ability to transport ourselves in this way. So you can start thinking of other parts of that that are really valuable to you. And then the traffic isn't so harsh. It's like, well, thank goodness those truckers are out there delivering food to us or bringing supplies in. And we can start to appreciate everything in our world a little differently. However, back to our topic, when you've made this list and you've put it in order, it starts to tell you a lot about yourself, of course. And one of the things that comes up with my clients, I have certain clients that when they've done this exercise, they come back to me and I say, okay, well, where are you in the list? And they go, oh, I'm not on the list, right? So then, this whole other layer of what we need to do is, if you're not at the top of this list, you're going to be depleted, right? So there's a lot of people who give, and they think that their purpose is taking care of everybody else, but they don't realize that if they don't take care of themselves, they're not going to have anything left to give, right? They're going to be completely depleted. So the idea is to, what I call sacred selfishness, to really take care of yourself so you're healthy, you have good finances, you can support yourself. Because if you give all of that away and you're sick and you're needy and you don't have, you can't pay your rent, but you've helped everybody else, then you're just going to be dependent on others and, more of a deficit than really helping others. And so in that value list, putting you at the top, and if you put you at the top, then you'll need to really sort out, it's you and your health and your consciousness, your ability to learn, your resources, all of that, before you even get into other people. Then we have that wealth and that ability to share that with others. But also with your values, similar to your purpose, your values should remain the same, whether you are alive or dead or living alone in a deserted island. If your values is that, you take care of everybody else, or you think your purpose is that, do you not have a purpose if there's no one around to take care of? Right? So you'll have to really ask yourself some questions. Your purpose needs to be able to be there. Again, if you're on a deserted island, if you're alive or dead, if you're out of a body, if you're alone, if you're in a jail cell, no matter what the circumstances, that's not going to either delete or change your purpose. So as you start running through ideas about what your purpose might be, you can ask yourself these questions and really put yourself in these different positions, right? To see are those still my values, and is that really my purpose? So, so then the other way that we can get clues to purpose is to look at our past lives. And this is a very valuable exercise as well. So when clients come to me looking for their purpose, we do the values exercise. We, have all these other discussions, but one of the important parts of it is that we go into several different lifetimes with the purpose of finding lifetimes, memories, experiences that relate to when you have been fully expressing your purpose. And so then you go into those lifetimes and you see how you were doing that. And that really starts giving you it broadens the scope of that, right? So, teacher for me, I thought, oh, maybe I'm a healer because I'm a hypnotherapist. But healing and hypnotherapy is not, well, first of all, it's not my purpose, but it isn't a purpose. It's a function. I do hypnotherapy really well. I can heal people, but I'm not a healer. I'm not, that's not my purpose. So then, I thought, oh, maybe teaching is my purpose. Well, to be a teacher, you really still have to have somebody to teach, right? That it's kind of falls to that. So teaching is a function. It's also a verb. So, if your purpose comes down to being a verb, then you're still looking at what is the function. What we need to look at is the why behind it. Why would I teach anyone, right? So, but anyway, in the example of my past lives, I've been a teacher. In many lifetimes, I've been, I don't know what you would call it, but where I did astrology and I did readings and I looked at the signs and signals and, like a giver of wisdom, right? A purveyor of, fortune telling and that came into healing, there's all of that. But I also would negotiate treaties, right? And so bringing people together, but again, that's a function, but it's sort of broadening the variety of lifetimes that are still feeding in to that one purpose. And I'm still unfolding what that is. So, but to the best of my knowledge at this point, in my own case, it's trying to elevate the consciousness of other people so that this is a better world to live in. And you can borrow that for now if you don't know anything, more specific for yourself. How can we make this a better world? So even negotiating treaties, it was so that people became more aware of who they are and their own connections to these people that they're fighting, right? We have soul connections here. And how can we come together in a more rational way, in a way that works for everybody, rather than just having a war and, let's just kill off the enemy? No, why not elevate consciousness? So, because there is a higher level of understanding that would allow us to live together and to be respectful and all of that. So, at this point, that's what I have for myself, is that better world that I want to live in. It's totally selfish. It's not for everyone else. I'm glad everyone else can enjoy it. And if we were all working in that direction, we could all enjoy this world a little better. But it's totally selfish because I know that I'm going to incarnate here many, 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 many more times. And I want this world to be a wonderful place for us to live in. And I want my consciousness to grow. So, and it actually makes a difference the more people who are expanding and growing their own consciousness. It's easier for the rest of us to do it, right? If everybody is spiraling downward and losing consciousness and forgetting themselves and working in that other direction, it's a drag on the whole system. And you can feel the system being pulled down into a lower level. So the more people that wake up, the more people that are working towards this better world, then the easier, we can each just lift a little bit of that weight, right? Instead of one or two people trying to hold that up. So anyway, that's for me. How about anybody else? Anybody else have some ideas about what your purpose is or the why behind your functioning? We know how you know how you're functioning. Um, you have an idea about the why behind it. Yes, Anna.
Well, it's not me. I'm gonna share a message from Facebook,
Okay.
and this is from Ashley Ann, and she says, "You want to be in discovery of your purpose because at one point in my life I felt lost because I thought I knew my purpose already. I was creating art. I love research different subjects on the computer. I love to nurture my various dolls and stuffed animals. I love creating new characters and stories. I also love to just sit and listen to my friends."
Nice. Hi, Ashley Ann. Sorry you're not on the Zoom call. We could use you talking here too. But thank you for sharing. Those are really good clues. Making art. I just did a retreat a couple of weekends ago, and we were just doing a lot of work around purpose and remembering lifetimes. Like I said, I could remember all these times creating or looking at the stars and looking into the future and all of that. And then one of the lifetimes this might relate to Ashley a little bit, Ashley Ann. I was drawing, I believe it was Egypt, and you know how they painted on the columns and on the walls and all the hieroglyphs and all of that. And I was painting, but when I painted, I was keying, and I'll explain that. I was putting specific energy into what I was painting and drawing there so that it had like magical qualities. What we call keying, it actually puts an energetic signature into an object. And by doing that, it can trigger things in people so that when people would walk by and they would see that piece of the art or that hieroglyph, whatever they were looking at, it would actually influence them in a positive way. So that was kind of fun. It's like, I want to learn how to do that again. But Ashley Ann, maybe we were doing that together back in Egypt. What else? Who else has some ideas about their purpose? Maria, can I pick on you again?
You can. So my focus has been on pulling up my own bootstraps, so self-sufficiency, self-reliance, and supporting others in doing that for themselves.
And what would be the why behind that?
So that you can stand on your own 2 feet, right? And help others as well, because we can't help others if we haven't helped ourselves first.
Okay. And then why do you care? What's in it for you that would make that a purpose?
Yeah, I'm passionate about people's individuality and self-sufficiency. I just think I love seeing it in people.
Okay. But why? What does that do for you? Okay, you love seeing it. Okay, so
Well,
like,
it's gratifying to me to see others step into their own power and not give their power away, be self-reliant.
okay. And so when you're dead, heaven forbid, but we all are on that.
Yes, at some point.
So when you're dead, how are you going to do that?
I suppose being self-reliant upon myself.
Okay. So the benefit is that you're learning to be more self-reliant by helping to teach others?
Yes. And my perspective is we're always teaching others that which we're here to learn. That's just my perspective.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. for me, teaching, it makes me have to organize my thoughts better around things. It can't be fuzzy, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, so if you were dead and you're floating out there, we'll just use you as an example now. I
By all
love
means.
picking on you, and you're a good Aries, so
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
how
yeah.
to come
It's all
back,
good.
right? So you're out there without a body. What good will this have done you, or what good will you have achieved? How will that shape you in a way that's useful after you die?
I don't know for a fact, but I would think that it strengthens your soul to be, that it's somewhat self-actualizing, to be self-reliant.
Okay. Um, okay, and then how might that purpose um, inform you or help you with your decision to incarnate next time?
Potentially in an even bigger leadership role than I've had.
That you might make certain choices, huh?
Yes.
Okay. And what about while you're dead? We'll just like swim in that pool for a
Yes.
while.
Yes.
So while you're out there, out of a body, how will that purpose inform how you navigate the astral? Like who you might align with or what you might be doing,
Yeah.
because your purpose, knowing your purpose, is going to help you to navigate that phase of living and dying, right? So you're out there, and that self-reliance, that purpose of building self-reliance in yourself, how do you think that is might play out there?
I mean, potentially connecting with similar energies that are catalytic and energized and, um, encouraging that self discovery and self reliance. And um, that's what I'd assume. I'd assume that it would be powerful energies that align with what I've learned and that want to make that even bigger the next time around, potentially,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that looks like.
Okay, good. How does that feel?
Feels great. So I hate it when people say that, but my client said, "That's great." I'm like, "What's great? Tell
Yeah,
me."
what does that mean? What is it? What do you mean by great?
So, but it feels, I feel myself, my back very straight. I feel confident and, um, yeah, I feel on purpose. That's how it feels, as though it's not by accident. I feel very on purpose. And
Mhm.
even though I haven't thought about everything that you're asking, it's like, no, that links, that works.
Okay. Yeah, good. Good. Um, Actually, also because of that energy that you would be exuding, of that self-reliance and leadership role,
Leadership, yeah.
yeah, the leadership piece of that would attract certain spirits to you too, wouldn't it?
Right.
You
Yes.
know, it'd be like, oh, okay, she's a worthy soldier in our army, or she's
Yes.
she's a
Yes.
worthy companion or
Yeah.
whatever. Let's help her, maybe because you would be aligned with that and very clear about it. Even spirit guides or other energies can say, okay, well, we know that if we open these doors, she will walk through them, right? If we open
Yes.
these doors to opportunity, that you would, you know, because you wouldn't just go, ah, well, I decided I just want to go color or play music instead.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
they open these leadership doors, they know that you're going to stay on that
Yeah.
focus.
Yeah. And you're calling back to me the fact that it's what I do. I help professionals be leaders in their careers. So it's probably more about leadership, but I'm really into self-reliance too. So thank you for that. I appreciate you taking me through it. It's helpful.
Yeah. So, well, if you're a leader, you have to be self-reliant
Yes.
to a huge degree because, you know, as a leader, there's very few peers,
Right.
right?
Right.
And that's another piece that interests me as well on my path. I mean, it's in a different way. So I teach, but the same thing. So I can have peers, right? Because I know all this stuff, but I want other people to know it as well and grasp it, and you know, be focused on their paths similarly, because then we're peers, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
It's mature. Yeah.
Okay, well, I think, let me just check. I had written a couple notes. I think we covered everything that I was going to cover. Yeah. So does anybody have questions or comments before we close for today? No, everybody's got it, huh? So you can go off and you know, use all these pointers and figure out, you know, get some clues. Maybe next time we can even talk, you know, reconvene and talk about what you've thought about and what you've discovered, or maybe some questions you still have around purpose. It's a huge quest, and you're the only one who really knows what that is, what that purpose is. I know I used to go and ask people all the time, do you know what my purpose is? You know, my teachers or my spirit guide or something. And, you know, they were always like, no, you have to figure that out. And it was very, very frustrating because it was like, well, if you know, just tell me. But nobody really knows. This is something very personal. And even though somebody may say, oh, well, obviously you're a natural born healer, for instance, or you should be in the healing field, you know, and all of that, you're the one who really knows the specific why behind that, or the way that you want it expressed in this lifetime. So, for instance, somebody who functions well as a healer, their purpose may be to, you know, have healthy people around them so they can enjoy healthy people, right? For their own personal reasons. They want healthy people. But maybe their purpose is really so that they understand the human body better. Maybe it's really about the research into how these organisms work.
Mhm.
You know, there could be many reasons why a person is a healer, and then there could be many reasons or many ways that that is expressed. They could be a dentist, they could be a surgeon, they could be a holistic herbal healer, they could be a nutrition coach, they, you know, a chemist, you know, just on and on. There could be so many ways that they're choosing, you know, in different lifetimes, so that they come at it from different angles. You know, you don't want to just be doing it the same way every time, um, you know, because you'll learn more by coming at that same goal from a different angle, that same bullseye. So. Okay, well, that's it for me today. Now, next week, I'll remind you, next week I'm having surgery. And so we aren't going to meet on Wednesday because I will probably be on painkillers. So I'll announce it again in the newsletter for the following week. I'll either announce that we're having it, or I'll announce that I'm still um, recovering or whatever. You know, I want to make sure I'm all put back together. But for sure, next week we're going to skip. So thank you all for being with us today. It's so great to see all your beautiful faces week after week. It's a nice little family created here. And I hope that was helpful for you. And I will see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank
Yay.
you.
Thank you.
Bye,
Take care.
everyone.
Yeah.
Thank
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 you.
you, Mary.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.